All right, in this video, we're going to take a look at area of circles. So we've looked at circumference of circles, which was the distance around a circle. Now we're going to look at area of a circle. So we're talking area. We're talking about the space that the two-dimensional shape occupies. So we're talking about the inside of the circle. We have a formula to find the area of a circle. The area is equal to pi times the radius squared. So a reminder that R stands for the radius. And the radius, as a reminder, is the distance from the center of the circle to a point on the circle. So we're talking about the radius. We don't have a formula that involves diameter. We could create one if we want to do, but we're going to look at area equals pi times radius squared. If we have the diameter, we just need to cut it in half and use that value in place of R. Example 1. Find the area of the circle. So in the first circle we have, because that red line is only from the center to a point on the circle, we know that that measurement is referring to the radius. So we're going to start with our formula always. Area equals pi times radius squared. We're going to substitute our values that we know. We know pi is 3.14. We know the radius is 7 squared. Now, keeping in line with our order of operations, we're going to want to square 7 first and then multiply by pi. And that's going to give us a result of 153.86 centimeters. And because we're talking area, we're talking square units. So 153.86 centimeters squared, or square centimeters, however you prefer to read that. Remember that if you use a pi key instead of 3.14, you will get a value that is slightly different, which is okay. Part B. Find the area of this circle. Now, the red line extends through the entire circle, through the center, which means it's the diameter. So if the diameter is 26, the radius equals 13, half of 26. Starting with our formula, area equals pi r squared. Substitute in 3.14 times 13 squared. This is going to give us a result of 530.66. And we're talking inches squared or squared inches. Remember that unit is important. All right, let's go ahead and look at 2 practice problems. You can go ahead and pause the video here and try those 2 and resume for the answers. All right, taking a look at those 2 problems. In C, we want to keep in mind that we had the diameter, and in D, we had the radius. So in C, we had to divide that by 2 for that value, and in D, we were able just to substitute the 6 in. All right, let's look at example 2. Find the area of a semicircle. So we're looking at a semicircle, which is half of a circle, which tells us we want half of the area. Half of the area, which also means we could take the area and divide it by 2. So however you want to do that. The area is pi r squared, and we divide that by 2. So looking at our orchestra pit here, the orchestra pit has a diameter of 30 feet, which means it has a radius of 15 feet. So we're going to go ahead and substitute 15 in for r. So we're going to take 3.14 times 15 squared, and what that result is, we're going to divide it in half because we're talking about half of a circle. That's going to result in the numerator being 706.5, and we're going to divide that by 2 for a final result of 353.25 square feet. So again, we're talking a semicircle, so we take the area formula and divide it in half. Why don't you go ahead and take a second to try A and B, and then we will resume with those answers. All right, taking a look at the answers for A and B, one thing I want to note is that in the previous video, when we were finding the perimeter of the semicircle, we added this diameter distance. We're not doing that in these problems. because we're not talking about the distance around, we're just talking about half of the area that it covers. So we just go ahead and divide by 2. And once we do that, we've found our answer that we are looking for. All right, we're going to go ahead and take one look at one more piece of area. And we're going to look at using the area formula to find the radius and the diameter of a circle. So we know the area. We're looking for what the radius and diameter would have been. So let's go ahead. We have the area of a circle is 78.5 square centimeters. What is the radius and the diameter? Because I'm talking area of a circle, I'm going to start with my area of a circle formula. Area equals pi r squared. Once I have that formula, now I'm going to substitute any values that I know. I know A, the area, and I know what pi is. So the area is 78.5, and I know pi is 3.14. I don't know what r is, and if I look what I have left, I have one variable. If I have an equation with one variable, I can solve for that variable. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do. I want to work to isolate my r. So the first step I'm going to take is I'm going to divide this right side by 3.14. And I'm going to divide the left side by 3.14. That's going to leave me with r squared equals 25. Now I'm going to ask myself, okay, what value times itself, or what value squared equals 25? And that result has an r value of 5. So we can do a little mental math there. Another option is we can use what's called a square root. Square root is going to undo the squaring. We haven't talked about square roots yet, so we're going to focus on it from a mental math standpoint. So what times itself equals 25, giving us an r value of 5. It also asked us for the diameter. So our radius was 5, and I should have a unit on here, centimeters. Our diameter then would be 10 centimeters because the diameter is twice the radius. Looking at B, the area of a circle is 64 pi inches squared. What is the radius and the diameter? Sometimes when looking at mathematical problems, we'll see something written like that, 64 with the pi symbol next to it. This is like the most exact way we can write a value using pi because we're not rounding, we're not approximating. So 64 pi is in exact form. It's also referred to as, it would be the area of the circle written in terms of pi, meaning it's written with the pi symbol instead of multiplying by pi. We can go ahead and multiply 64 by pi to find out what the value would be. So if we did that, we would get 296 inches squared. So it's referencing the same area, it's just written in a different way. So we can approximate it as 200.96 inches squared. Then we're going to do is we're going to start with our formula, pi r squared. Now we're going to substitute 296 in for A, 3.14 in for pi, and again, I don't know what r squared is, or what r is, I should say. So now I have one variable, I can go ahead and solve. Divide by 3.14, divide by 3.14, and that's going to leave me with 64 equals r squared. And again, I'm going to ask myself mental math, what times itself, so what's number squared equals 64, and that's going to be a value of 8. So the radius is 8, the diameter is 16. And again, I need some labels on here, inches and inches. We have another option here. I'm going to actually do it again, but I'm going to keep it as 64 pi and see what happens. So we had area equals pi r squared is our starting formula. Now, instead of giving the 290.96 in for A, I'm going to just write 64 pi. I'm going to write what they wrote. So write it in terms of pi. And because I did that with pi, I'm going to leave this as pi as well instead of writing 3.14, and just to see what happens. So I'm looking at something like this. Now, I'm going to follow the same steps. Now, it kind of looks like I have a variable, couple different variables to solve, but remember that pi is a numerical value. So the only thing I don't know is still the r. So I'm going to go ahead and try solving this. Previously, I divided by 3.14 because I saw 3.14, but this time, since I have pi, I'm going to divide. I'm just going to write that pi symbol on both sides. I'm going to divide by pi, but I'm going to keep it in the symbol. Now, what does that do? Well, I can see that this symbol, these pi symbols will cancel, and it's still going to leave me with r squared, very similar to what I had over here. And then the pi symbol canceled there as well, leaving me with my 64, giving me that same result of 8. Because remember, it is the same problem. If you think, we times by pi just to divide by pi again. So if I times by pi and divide by pi, I end up with what I had in front of pi, 64, which is what we ended up with here. So again, my diameter then would be 16 inches, and that's how we can take, if we know the area of the circle, we can find our radius and our diameter. Hope this helps.